Yeah, what's up? This Disciple Marcello Currents up in this, rain back up in this, anti-Illuminati all day, anti-America all day. Yeah. So this video basically is going to be about Vice President Kamala Harris. Okay, Vice President Kamala Harris. My whole thing, and I'm gonna get straight to it, is the fact that she's a former prosecutor. That was her job before she was vice president. Okay, and you know where I'm going with this. Me doing my campaign and my mission concerning 44 states with child marriage. I want to know why Kamala Harris is a former prosecutor, right? And she clearly stated, which I just watched on the vice presidential debate, that she handled child sexual assault cases and homicide cases. So Miss Kamala Harris, Mrs. Kamala Harris, had handled child sexual assault cases in the past as a prosecutor. So it's safe to say she had a passion to protect children or to defend children or to bring justice for children. So how come you've been in office X amount of time and you have not found the need to voice your same passions, your same zealous prosecutor ways of justice for children concerning 44 states with child marriage and the age of consent under 18 in 40 states, and the last law passed July 1st, 2019 under the Trump administration that allows adults to marry children at no minimum age? You have found no need to voice your concerns or advocate concerning this. We have seen no press briefings concerning this. So a lot of y'all sit back ignorant of people's lives, and I don't. You know, I'm not the type of person to just let anything go over my head or go past me. You know what I'm saying? That's just not the way of a soldier. So how is it that this woman was a prosecutor, right, in the courts, but you don't bring none of that perspective and none of that eye to the White House? You're just sitting up there as the vice president of the United States as a former prosecutor for child assault cases. Now it'd be different if you ain't have no field in this. This is why I'm specifically addressing you, because you had a career and a background as a prosecutor concerning child sexual assault cases. You've said this yourself. I just listened to your vice presidential debate, and you said this yourself. So y'all sit up and let somebody who's a former prosecutor handling child sexual assault cases sit up in the White House and do nothing about 44 states with child marriage. This is what I'm talking about, guys. This is what I'm talking about. How your American government can sit up and prosecute people for doing things concerning children, but yet they don't do anything about 44 states with child marriage. That's a 7. Don't do nothing about child marriage, but you locking up people. Don't say nothing about child marriage when you done become a vice president, but you was locking up people in the past, and you had passion concerning that. Obviously, you had a career doing this, and you take none of those expertise, none of their expertise to the White House and say, hey, you know what? As a former prosecutor, I don't like the fact that the American government has 44 states with child marriage. Could anybody blame you? Would it be far-fetched for you to think this way? Being a former prosecutor, would it be far-fetched for you to go in the White House and start cleaning house? Not saying you would be able to single-handedly do it. I'm not saying you would be able to single-handedly do it. But at the same time, though, you are the vice president. Come on. You can't advocate. Who's going to fight against you? This is my whole thing with the 44 states with child marriage. If any politician advocates against this, who will be the resistance? That's a 7. Who's going to be the resistance? There's no one that's going to say, hey, hold up. You got to keep those child marriage laws in my state. Hold up. There's no resistance. This is what should spook you out the most. There is no resistance. There is no people that's going to say, you know what? Y'all out of control. We got to still have these child marriage laws. There's nobody that's going to do that. So there's no real resistance. But yet there's no real advocates. You see how funny that is? And see, here's the thing about it. This is all I'm saying. Just like the job that Kamala Harris had in the past as a former prosecutor, we want the likes of people who do those prosecutions to realize that you really don't have the right to do it concerning child crimes, child sexual crimes, when you got 44 states with child marriage. You don't really have the right to do it. So in your right conscience, you can lock up one guy for sexually assaulting a child, but then you can give rights to another to marry one. You can do that in your right conscience. In your right conscience, you can lock somebody up for sexually assaulting a child. but you can watch people marry children over here by child marriage laws in 44 states. You can watch child marriage laws go forward, but you can lock people up for child sexual assault laws, for child sexual assault. You can do both of those. You can let them coexist. You can let child marriage laws coexist simultaneously with child sexual assault charges being prosecuted. You can live simultaneously with that going on. Those are trains going in two different directions. Those are dogs in two different fights. Well, those are dogs partaking of two different types of food. Better way to put it. Here you are hungry to lock up child molesters, but here you are giving rights to hungry pedophiles to marry children. I'm going to say that again. Here you are hungry to lock up child molesters, but then here you are giving 44 state child marriage laws to hungry pedophiles that's hungry for children, hungry to marry them. And I can't understand how Kamala Harris could not just say, just hold a press briefing. We want to advocate. Let's see you stand up like the prosecutor you used to be. Let's see you do a press briefing like the prosecutor you used to be, with the aura and the energy that you used to have, and say, you know what? We want to stop 44 states with child marriage, period. We live in a times where nobody should be marrying children. We don't know what they'll do psychologically to the child. All you thinking about, a lot of you are so simple-minded. All you think about is the sexual part. What about the psychological part? What about what happens to the child from being married to someone that's old enough to be their father. They become a pet. You realize that, right? They don't become a groomed, wholesome human being in your society. They become a pet. You realize that, right? They become a pet. They don't become some wholesome person that goes out into society, holds down jobs and holds down. They're already married. So, you see how weird that is? They grow up and you think they're going to get married, but they're already married. I mean, the next thing you think is marriage, but they already married. The next thing you think is when they've grown up, they're going to get married, but they already married. That part. So what I'm asking is this. Don't you feel we should hold her responsible for sitting up in the White House as a former prosecutor? I think it's a sense of liability there. How can you do it? How can you lock up, and she admitted herself, how can she lock up people for child sexual assault, right? She was a prosecutor for that. That's what she said. Go look at the vice presidential debate. This is what she said. And let me get something understood. I don't want to be anyone's leader. If you think that I'm somehow trying to get people spied and I'm trying to be some leader in your community, that you got me completely wrong. You're listening to fools in your community. I'm not trying to be your leader. I'm not trying to be your king. I'm not trying to be your president. You're listening to fools in your community. I'm not a whistleblower. I'm just whistling the truth. I'm not a conspiracy theorist because everything I say is facts without any debate. Without any debate. Any conspiracy theorists, anything you heard to the effects of something that a conspiracy theorist would say? You have not, have you? You have not heard me say anything that a conspiracy theorist would say. I'm talking to you about facts. I pride myself on having a video, a channel, a YouTube channel that talks about the facts. I'm not talking about what I feel. I'm not talking about something I assume. I'm not talking about puzzle pieces put together and like this numeral kind of puzzle that I'm putting together. I'm not putting some digital puzzle together. Okay? This is about facts. So let me get that. Let me differentiate myself from people who want to come in and do numeric puzzles and put numeric puzzles and numeral puzzles and digital puzzles together. Listen, that's not what's going on here. What's going on here that differentiates me from the failed Alex Jones peoples of the world. Alex Jones had a whole platform and used it for nothing but assumptions and conspiracy theories. When he could have been talking about 44 states with child marriage and ended all of this foolishness. That's why I don't want you to compare me to these people. They wasted too much time. They wasted time talking about foolishness. Oh, talking about secret societies. You see me wasting a lot of time talking about that? It's in the hours. As far as my videos go, it's in the hours. It's in hours as much time as I waste talking about it, or take talking about it. I don't take a lot of time talking about it because they're just another. At the end of the day, they're just another group of people. That's how I see it. They're just another group of humanity, and you got all this other stuff going on. You got military, police, government, laws being passed, like I'm telling you about. It's so much else. It's so much more going on, right? So all I need you to do is differentiate me from all of that, all of that. I may touch on everything, but this is not no secret society YouTube channel, anti-secret society YouTube channel. I show you who I oppose because it's necessary for you to know that. So you know I'm not affiliated with it as well. That's another thing. That's another reason it has to be known that I'm anti-Illuminati, because I don't want you to feel I'm affiliated with it. Because soon as a man in America has any power, the first thing you conspiracy theorists think is that he's Illuminati. He's Freemason. So that's also another reason that it must be made known that I am opposing to secret societies. Not just, well, he just hates them. Or he has this dislike for him or something like that. With all the foolishness that has been said, people need to know I'm not a part of that. I am a born-again Christian, Holy Ghost filled with the Holy Ghost. You need to know that. Okay? Now, for all you Christians out there that don't believe in me, I'm not asking you to believe in me. I'm asking you to believe in God. I'm not your God, okay? That's what's wrong with a lot of you Christians here in America. You make gods out of your preachers. I'm just like you at the end of the day. And just because you see imperfection does not mean I don't belong to God. This is a whole different lane and era that I come up in. And all the stuff that you've seen, all these people that you've seen come and go, a lot of y'all was sitting up worshiping them, hanging on their every word. And if they messed up a little bit, you try to take Jesus all the way away from them. You're not going to be able to do that with me. Because I'm telling you right now, I'm not perfect. I'm telling you right now, I know that I'm a human and I am very well aware of that. And I don't mind being a human. Okay? If you have a problem with being a human with imperfections, then hey, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I have no problem with being a human full of imperfections and flaws. Okay? If you struggle with that, then that means you struggle with being a perfectionist, even as a Christian. Yeah, it's Christians that struggle with being perfectionists. Oh, I could do a message on that. You struggle with being a perfectionist. And that's why you try to take Jesus away from everybody at a drop of a hat. But you can't do it here. You know why? Because you don't have a patent on Jesus. You don't got a patent on Jesus, all you American Christians, all you American preachers, all you American theologians. You don't got no patent on Jesus. All you people that like to sit back and say you got the spirit of discernment and all of this, that, and the third. You don't have a patent on Jesus Christ, the Messiah, born in Bethlehem. Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus Christ of Nazareth. You don't have no patent on him. So you can go ahead and kill that noise right now. And if you're fasting against me, and if you're praying against me, and if you're thinking you're rebuking me, you are in the flesh. I know you're familiar with that, ain't you? Yeah, I got you. You're in the flesh when you're playing with God's people. You know what the Bible says? Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. That's what you need to do. Because they'll try to sick Christians on you, you know. If you say you're a Christian, they'll try to go get the best, who they think is the best Christians, and try to get them to figure you out. Oh, I'm wrong about it. And I'm going to tell you something. Listen, no one knows it all. Look, no one knows who everyone is. You can't tell. You listen, all you know is I'm professing Jesus Christ. I say he's my Lord and Savior, and that, you know what? You gotta take me at what I say. Listen, it's better safe than sorry. It's better safe than sorry. If somebody tell you they're Christian, it's better safe than sorry than going around thinking you super Christian, playing around me, and you wind up in the graveyard. Well, you in the flesh. Anything can happen when you in the flesh. Anything can happen when you in the flesh. You ain't superhuman. You don't think I know that? If you're in the flesh, anything can happen. And you'll be dead talking about, God, why you ain't saved me? Because you was in the flesh. You were doing fleshly things, carnal things, sinful things, and you got caught up. You got caught up out there. And you'll get caught up over here playing with me. You got that? Good. Now, back to what I was saying. Kamala Harris, former prosecutor, helping prosecuting child sexual assault cases, right? How come you can't see the stuff how come you ain't checked out all the laws? You was in law, for crying out loud. Just to simplify it a little more just to simplify it a little more, you were into law. You were into law. How you are the head, the second in command in this country, and you were in law, and you now lose all your passion and eye for law and crimes and everything. You should be sifting, hear this part, you should be sifting through all the laws with your prosecuting eyes. You should be, let's think about that. She should be, and I'm not like sitting up trying to poke and accuse, but come on, guys. This is the second person in command, and she used to be a prosecutor. Specifically, everybody's not a prosecutor that comes into the White House, but she was. That's what I'm trying to get you to see. Specifically, she was. Everybody's not a prosecutor that comes in the White House. That's not part of that. Being a senator is not part of being a prosecutor. You can be a senator and run for president without ever being in law. Right? Okay then. So that's what I'm saying. It's a logical complaint, right? It's a logical complaint. Right? For someone to come and serve second in command in your community that used to be in the courts dealing with laws, know the laws. Another question we should ask is, did she know these laws as a prosecutor? While you prosecuting, did you know about 44 states for child marriage? And that's why they maybe that's why they put her in there. Hey, you walking around prosecuting people, you don't even know 44 states got child marriage. You right for what we want you, because you ain't gonna come in here and do nothing about it. Boom. Hey, it's just a thought I'm throwing out there. I'm not saying it's gospel. That's the difference between me and these other people. I'm not saying my assumptions are gospel. I'm not saying I'm holding on to it like an anchor. But it makes you think. Because she was prosecuting. How can you prosecute in the country where this is going on? Is my other question. Did you know it was going on? Well, then how come you didn't know it was going on? Well, then that means you ain't as educated as a prosecutor as you should be. And if you don't know it now, you ain't educated as our leader as you should be. I'm pretty sure, and this is another thing you need to listen to. I'm pretty sure that most of these politicians don't even know. Now, this ain't a pass. Don't get me wrong. This is not a pass. They should know, but I don't think they know. I just can't believe that they would know this and not do nothing about it. Why? Because here's why. Because how can you sit up and contradict yourself like that? Look, this is the end. Listen, guys, this is anarchy. This is basically anarchy. You want me to tell you why? Because how can you sit up and prosecute people, right? But you're doing the exact same thing by law. By law now, not, it's some wayward people that we just can't get a hold of in our community, and we just can't stop them from taking these children away as if they're marrying them without any laws to marry them. No, not that part. Not that at all. Ain't none of that. Ain't no such part. Can't say that part because there's no such part. What it is they're passing them. These laws are by law. They're marrying them by law. And then here's the punchline. They coming out and convicting people of the very nature of the thing that they're allowing by law. That's where the fatality is. That's where it becomes fatal. It's a toxic, fatal cocktail. It's a fatal cocktail. That's how I'm gonna start putting it. It's a fatal cocktail as far as law. When you got 44 states with child marriage, but then you locking up R. Kelly. Y'all still talking about him being married to Aaliyah. Y'all still talking about that. But you're not talking about 44 states with child marriage. Hey, that's basically the same thing. Is it not? Is not R. Kelly being with Aaliyah, in essence, an example, a famous example of what I'm talking about? Should have never happened, should it? And look how everything turned out. Maybe if R. Kelly didn't have the right to do that, maybe he would have changed his life. Who knows? We don't know these things. We can't assume we know these things. But he had the right to do it, which pushed him deeper in perversion. That part. He had the right to do it so he was able to live out this lifestyle. Right? Because I'm sure she was underage and I'm sure he was not underage. I'm sure R. Kelly was not under 18. And I'm sure Aaliyah was. That part. And y'all, and listen, for the African American culture, y'all knew about this. You knew about it. You been knew about it. So you another one that don't got the right to sit around here talking about nothing. When we have full examples of your culture embracing or accepting these realities, you don't get to have your cake and eat it too. See, like I told you, in America, it's not what you do, it's who you are. It's not what you do. We don't care what you do. It's who you are that's doing it. If you famous, they try to reason why you messing with someone underage. Let a homeless man mess with somebody that's 17. Y'all all on it. Let him mess with somebody that's 16. Y'all all on it. But when a famous person does it in America, well, you know how it was back in the day. That's what you start talking about. Back in the day, it was very common for men to marry these girls that would labor for them and cook and clean for them. That's what you start talking about. When it comes to the famous people you don't even know. You're more able to know that homeless man than you are to know the famous person. But yet you all over the homeless man for doing it. Because you don't esteem him as valuable. See, when you have someone that's valuable in your community, you will still accept them no matter even if they having sex with children. Well, you accepted Michael Jackson. Y'all still accept Michael Jackson. He's the perfect example. You still listen to Michael Jackson music, but you muting R. Kelly. That part, boom, ow. Hey, this is how I feel. What Michael Jackson did
what Michael Jackson did was so questionable, you should have muted him too. Well, look, we do know this part. We do know that he slept in the same bed with children. Now, it sounds beautiful. It sounds pure and almost even a sense of honor, like in holiness, right? And as a Christian, I ain't talking about real holiness. I'm talking about what we esteem as this other type of holiness, where it's a person of high integrity and character and purity. It's like that definition, right? But here's the problem with that. It's not according to your culture. It's not according to your culture. And according to culture, you allowed him to ride on that. Here, this part right here, guys. Just this part right here. Just this part right here. You let him ride on that. Yeah, you did. You know you don't let no man sleep in the bed with no children. A grown man, okay, with a fully grown penis, sleeping in the bed for hours and hours, all in the middle of the night. You know how it is in the middle of the night? That part. And then you let him sleep in the bed in the middle of the night with children. But you talking about mute R. Kelly. You love Michael too much to let him go. See, the truth of the matter is, let me say this, and I'm gonna be done with it. The truth of the matter is, you can't let your culture go. Y'all can't let your culture go. That's why you can't become good Christians, because you can't let your culture go. And Michael Jackson is a perfect example. You couldn't let Michael Jackson go. You know you wouldn't have let nobody else ride for sleeping in the bed with children. You wouldn't even let your own family get away with that. What he doing sleeping in the bed with children? Boy, y'all, what's wrong with him? That boy, what's wrong with him? We'll never know what he did. He slept in the bed with children. We'll never know what he did. And you won't never know what he did. If you let somebody sleep in the bed with children, you ain't gonna never know. But yet, we do. You let that ride. You know why? Because he's one of your darlings of your community. So just like I said, it's not what you do in America, it's who you are. Even down to sleeping with children. He literally was sleeping with children. He slept with children. You know how somebody say, well, we slept together, and they talking about sex. Well, see how close it is? You see how close it is? To the point where people will say, if I'm having sex with somebody, we slept together, but you let Michael Jackson you let him sleep with children. And that activity is so close to sexuality. You hear this part? That it's referenced in sexuality. That's a 7. Well, a lot of people don't say they had sex with somebody. They say they slept with them. Man, look, I'm not trying to do this. It's just there. Can't you see it? It's just the writing is there on the wall. Well, you're hypocrites in your community. You pick and choose who you want to play with. And the writing is on the wall. That's why God ain't having it. When you sit up and let a fully grown man, not no teenager, not Michael when he was a little kid himself, having sleepovers. No. Not when Michael was a little older even. Not when Michael was leaving like a teenager where, okay, he let kids sleep in his bed, they like him. That kind of thing. Not even that. Fully grown. After Thriller and everything. Hey, after he was out there in Thriller with all that darkness and all the monsters and stuff, You shouldn't have had your kids in his bed anyway. You don't want to hear it like that, do you? You seen Michael out there on that video with all the monsters and goblins and zombies. Now, why you got your kid laying in the bed with him? That part. Okay. Ain't that much. Let me tell you something. Ain't that much love in the world. You can love children all you want. You don't have to sleep with them. Okay? But yet y'all let that go. You still play Michael Jackson all over the radios, all over the country. You still talking about how much you love Michael Jackson. As a collective community. So I just proved that it's not what you do, it's who you are. It's not what you do in America, it's who you are. I just proved it with Michael Jackson. He's a perfect example. He was so great that y'all let that go. That's a 7. Y'all loved him so much, you let the pedophilia go. The one thing we can settle on is that it's not wise for anyone to be, as a fully grown adult, to be sleeping with children in a bed because we would never know what happened. You gonna let your child sleep in the bed with a man and then come get him the next day and you will never know what actually happened? You tripping. You lying too. There ain't no way in the world my child sleeping in somebody's bed. I don't care if it's a woman either. Man or a woman. Women do freaky stuff in the bed too. Women do freaky stuff in the bed too. Putting their butt up on you and all kind of stuff. You don't know? How you know? How you know what she doing in the middle of the night? Hey. Women are sexual creatures too. They have sex drives and libido too. They're subject to perversion as a human being as well. Hey, so you got them older women. Now them women be talking about, oh, he can sleep in the bed. He can sleep with me. No, not gonna happen. Don't think so. My son or daughter would not be sleeping in the bed with no woman. Not these days. And hey, I gotta keep it 100. Not these days. Hey, we don't know. There's countless stories of women doing stuff too. And I got to get on that too. Because you think women are just, oh, women wouldn't do that. They're caretakers by nature. They're caretakers by nature. It's the men that's doing that. Well, explain to me why you got your most famous pedophile as a woman in America. Oh, you don't remember the woman that dated the little Asian boy? That was one of her students. Your most famous pedophile in America is a female. Now, done with it. Miss Kamala Harris. Mrs. Kamala Harris. You was a former prosecutor. I'm trying to understand for the world of me, how come you can't see something so obvious? It doesn't take a lot of effort for you to see the age of consent in each state. I mean, right before lunch at the White House, you can see that. Hey, right before lunch, when you ain't got nothing to do, you just sitting there behind your desk. Why don't I look up the age of consent in America now that I'm in the White House? I'll be doing all of that. I'll be knowing all the basic laws. That's what I would be doing. And you should be inclined to do that as a person that went to school in law. In your spare time, you should be checking out the laws. That's a 7. In your spare time, shouldn't you be checking out the laws? As a former prosecutor, as a person that went to school for law, shouldn't you just have this interest in it? Because I'm pretty sure you have interest in law, being that you are a former prosecutor. So all of that desire for law just went away. All your interest in how law inspires you and justice inspires you, all of that just went away. In your spare time, you could have got this information while you sitting up there waiting for your lunch to be served to you in the White House or wherever you may be. throughout your months and years in service to us. Supposed to be. In your idle time, you could just sit there and just boom, laptop, phone, Google it. Age of consent in America. Age of consent is under 18 in 40 states. Boom, you find that out as a former prosecutor in the White House. See how I'm painting? See how I'm showing y'all? You Google another one. Child marriage. As a former prosecutor, now that you're in the White House, you can get more done. That's a 7th hour, boom. You can get more done, right? But you're not doing that. We ain't hear you talk about nothing about it. We ain't hear you say nothing about it. We ain't hear you say nothing about it. This is what I'm telling you guys. You see what you missed? This woman has a career in this, what I'm talking about. This is, I can't make this up. It's just too perfect. She has a career in law, for crying out loud. She's second in command. That's just like saying, okay, that's just like saying somebody was a CEO of a record company. And then you went to another record company. Let's say maybe you was an A&R manager or something. And then you went to the most famous record company in the world. Now you already know about all the problems with royalties and artists getting their rights to their music, their masters and all of that. You come into this field already with expertise, understanding of all that's going on. You see what I'm trying to say? But you say nothing about royalties when you are at this record company, this world famous record company. You say nothing about royalties. You don't advocate for royalties. You don't advocate for better royalties. You don't advocate for better deals instead of a 360 deal. You don't advocate for for artists to have their masters more easily. You don't do any of that, but you're just sitting there. Wouldn't someone be like, why is that person not saying anything? And they're aware of the corruption that's going on. Are they aware of this foolishness that's going on? It makes you wonder. It's no different. She was a child. She was a prosecutor for child sexual law charges, cases. She prosecuted people. So when she goes to the White House, she don't feel none of that. You don't feel like doing none of that. You're not looking at it from the eyes of where you come from at all. You don't think, no, okay, in my idle time, let's see what's going on around here. So you ain't sniffing out nothing. You ain't trying to sniff out nothing. That's the truth of the matter. You ain't trying to sniff out nothing. Obviously not. You trying to, look, in my view, you trying to keep it gangster. You trying to keep it cold. You keeping the codes. We ain't talking about none of this. Huh? You tell me what it is. Because it's hard for me to believe somebody can be a former prosecutor now. I'm not a former prosecutor, but she is. You're a former prosecutor, and you can sit up in the White House and think about none of the laws that affect children. That's the first thing, because you know about, murder, other things, and all these different other things. Okay. But the first, you might not think about that off the cuff, but your first priority should be children, right? Protecting children. You see where I'm going with this? That should easily come to your mind, and then you should think, what are the child laws, right? This is what normal people would do. This is what normal people would do, guys. They had a career in prosecuting child sexual assault cases. They're going to go to the White House and they're going to keep that same nose to sniff out things, right? So, let's see what the laws are. Or before she even got in the White House, shouldn't she know him as a prosecutor? So then why would you be trying to be a president when you know that they got 44 states with child marriage? See, that's why I'm telling you guys, this is anarchy. You don't want to accept it, but it's anarchy. Because how can you take any job in the government where they're locking up people? This is what you need to hear. Not only about the child marriage laws, they're locking people up. I can't stress that part enough. That's why if you ain't understood nothing else, understand that it's a fatal cocktail. Because they're locking people up, right? They're prosecuting people, persecuting people too. Your community is persecuting people too. And listen, you got child marriage laws in 44 states. That's the fatal cocktail. That's what the punchline really is. Because you have, child marriage laws and the age of consent under 18 in many countries. As far as the age of consent under 18, right? Now, remind you, China doesn't have child marriage laws. Russia doesn't have child marriage laws. They do not. They do not have any such laws that allows anyone under 18 in China to be married. They don't have any such laws that allow anyone in Russia to be married to children. There's no such laws. No such laws at all. Now, the age of consent is another law. Many people have that, right? But here's the difference. They don't go up locking people up. You see what I'm saying? For being with children at the same ages that they allow, hear this part, they allow people to have sex with them. So, for example, I got to make examples because people sometimes, when I say a sound bite, that's why I slow things down. Because if I say that, some people got it, some people didn't. Okay? So I'm going to give you an example. When you go here in New York, the age of consent is 17. Right? So that means if you have sex with someone that is 16, you're going to jail. You're going to jail. And here's why you're going to jail. Here's the punchline, guys. This is why you're going to jail. This is why. Because that's considered a child here in New York. That's why you're going to jail. So they consider that it's a child, right or wrong. So, okay, so if you go to North Carolina, the age of consent where I'm from is 16. So you can go have sex with somebody that's 16 in North Carolina. So how can you really lock somebody up here in New York for doing something that you can do in North Carolina? How can you lock somebody up for doing something in New York that you can do also in the same country in North Carolina? You can go to North Carolina and have sex with a 16-year-old girl until you can't have sex no more. You try to even touch a 16-year-old girl, even talk to them probably, even say something sexually suggestive here in New York, you're going to jail. So how can you enforce laws in North Carolina then? I mean, in New York then? How can you enforce laws in New York when you're doing it in North Carolina? Oh, you don't like that example? Is that not clear enough? Here's a better example. Again, the age of consent is here in New York is 17. Under the UCMJ program in the military, in the American military, there's a program called the UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice. When you join the military, they have an age of consent set for all military servicemen and women to follow. You don't follow whatever state you came from and say, well, the age of consent was 17 in New York, so I'm going to be having sex with, as for where I come from, based on that. You can't do, no. They have their own set age that you can engage human beings with in the military. Guess what that age is? 16 years old. In your military. In your military. So how can New York lock you up for being with someone that's 16 when the military is doing it? That's why I'm saying it's anarchy. Because it's too much of a conflict of laws that you, now that means to me, as far as a collective country, that the integrity of the age of consent being at 17 is canceled out, and 18 is canceled out because of the ages that are underage. You can't enforce, listen, you can't enforce something that you contradict. You can't enforce something that you contradict. And as a country, how can government people put you in government jails with the same government? It's not two different governments. The government that's in New York is the government that's in North Carolina. It's one government here in the country, right? It's one government in America. So how can the government lock you up here in New York for being with someone that's 16, but let you have sex with someone in a motel, which in North Carolina, with someone that's 16? How can they let you do that? Have sex with somebody in North Carolina in a motel? You can have sex all day, all night, all weekend with somebody that's 16 in North Carolina. You can't. You even get seen taking a 16-year-old person to a motel here in New York, you're going to jail. If they know. But that's the same government. So what I've coined is a term. I made this term up. I coined it. It's called a conflict of law, where the integrity of one law, the lack of integrity of one law, cancels the integrity of another one. Which means you can't enforce the one that has integrity. Because you have a law that conflicts against the integrity of the law that has integrity. You can't enforce 17 as the age of consent in New York when you're having sex with people in North Carolina that's 16. That is a law of conflict. The law of conflict is the age of consent being at 16 in North Carolina. That's the law of conflict, right? Which cancels the integrity, or what you think is integrity, of the law here in New York with the age of consent at 17. It cancels it out because it's the same government. It's the same system. Now you see what I'm saying. Now you see what I'm saying, and why you see I'm saying anarchy is on the way, because the laws of conflict are too many. Now put it all together. You got 44 states with child marriage. How can they enforce anything? Now you see what I'm saying. How can they enforce anything, bro? And that's why we have anarchy on the horizon, because no one in their right mind can sit up and tell you that they can enforce anything concerning child sexual laws when they marrying children doing the same thing. What do you think they're doing in the child marriage? Having sex. Guess with what? a child. So in nature, it's the same thing. You just get married to the child. That's how they make it look good. That's a 7. That's how they make it look good to your community. Well, they're married to a child. So you got a child hubby. You got a child hubby. Listen, you got a child wifey. That your child is a wifey. Your wifey is a child, I mean. No, listen. A man and a child has nothing compatible with each other romantically speaking. What man has anything compatible with a child romantically speaking? So there's no sexual compatibility. There's no romantic compatibility. There's no intellectual compatibility for the most part. With a fully grown man with a child, there's no compatibility, right? So why are they allowing it to happen in the first place when there's no compatibility there? You know why? Because it's for sexual reasons only, and they just dressed it up as a marriage. But yet, here's why this is why I'm here. Yet they're locking people up. Yet they're persecuting people. Other countries are not doing that. Other countries are not locking people up when they know what laws they have. You are doing it. Your community is persecuting people ignorant of their own laws. Just walking around here straight ignorant. Ignorant as they come. You talking about you protect children. Do you know what country you live in? Your country does not protect children. And it's not a matter of opinion. I'm showing you facts. Child marriage laws put children in harm's way as far as their future more than anything. Well, if you're married to somebody, what you gonna do? What you gonna aspire to be? Because I'm pretty sure these people are weirdos, so they're not gonna put you in school and you're gonna become a doctor. You're probably not gonna become a doctor. You're probably gonna become a downtrodden pet, sexual pet, halfway butt naked all the time. That's the truth. You're not gonna be a doctor. You're gonna be halfway butt naked all the time. That's what you're going to be. That's putting the child in harm's way, therefore. So, now you see what I'm saying? You look around the country. The age of consent in Florida is 18. The age of consent in California is 18. But how can California enforce and lock up somebody for being with somebody at 17 when New York has the age of consent at 17? How can California do it in their right mind? Well, we locking you up. We know New York allows it, but we don't. Then you need to become your own country. Because under one government is what we live under. Right or wrong, this is one government. So how's my government locking me up in California, but they don't lock me up in New York? But you call yourself what? The United. That's what I'm saying. Listen, that's a joke. How are you united when you ain't even first united by law? Listen, to establish yourself as united, wouldn't you think that the first foundation would be that you're united by law? Most people would say, okay, maybe not by culture we're united. Maybe we're not, the way we act, we're not united. The food we eat is not united. But by laws, we are united. Not here in America. You're not the United States of America. You're not united by law. What other things should be united? Tell me what should be united. Tell me what they talk about when they say united. That's a 7 album. Tell me what they talking about when they say united. You got racial tension? What is it? Oh, all of it is one country. That's all it gotta be. That's what it must be. That's all it can be. That it's all one country. But other than that, it's nothing else united. The laws are not united when you can get locked up in California for a law that's allowed here in New York. If you have sex with a 17-year-old girl here in New York, nothing's going to happen. By law. Now, I don't know what the community would do. I don't know what people's family would do. I don't know what parents would do. But by law, the police is not coming. But if you go to California, as far as the age of consent, and you have sex with a 17-year-old girl, you're going to jail. You're going to jail, buddy. But California is not all good because they are one of those states that has the age of consent. They're part of the states that have that new law that was passed July 1st, 2019 that allows adults to marry children at no minimum age. They're one of the states that allows it. So although they have the age of consent at 18, they have that new law that was passed July 1st, 2019, just 3 years ago, that allows adults to marry children at any age, marry children. And it says within reason or whatever. But the bottom line is, if the parents with it, then then it's going down. And to me, that it doesn't change anything. It makes it worse to me because now the parents are part of the foolishness. Knowing a man has nothing in companionship, as far as companionship, with a child. There's no companionship there. There's no companionship there. So it's all about sex dressed up as marriage. And like I've said before in the past, it's the fact that it's an option. It's the fact that it's an option here in America. That's the fact. That's the problem. It's an option. It's an option, right? And listen, you might think, oh, he's a great advocate for children. And listen, I'm gonna be 100 with you. That's not really what it is. It's more that they contradict themselves. Because that's where the judgment comes in. Oh, because everybody got this and that and the third. They got the age of consent here, this way, that way, in different countries. But they're not playing with people. Your country is playing with people. And they got 44 states with child marriage, playing with people at the same time. That's what we talk about. That's what this is all about. It's the contradiction of your American community, your everyday people. They part of it too. They contradict themselves in ignorance. In ignorance. That's worse. You don't even know you're contradicting yourself. But your ignorance is the contradiction. You're ignorant of something and you don't even realize that ignorance. With that ignorance, you've already contradicted yourself. Well, if you didn't know 44 states with child marriage is going on, but when you mess with me or anyone else, you're automatically contradicting what is going on in your community. In ignorance, in blind ignorance. You're the worst of them all. The American community, you're the worst of them all. You're contradicting yourself blindly. You don't even know you're contradicting yourself. In other words, you don't even know you're contradicting yourself because you don't know what's going on. And you sitting around here talking about, oh, we protecting the children. Buddy, you're blind and you contradicting yourself. You don't even know what's going on out here. Yeah, that's where you at. Now, welcome to the real United States of America, where they have 44 states as child marriage. They have 44 states with child marriage. Welcome to the real United States. Yeah, and listen, you can't sit up and ignore it. It's what it is. You can't sit up and act like it don't exist. These laws are real. Whether you want to take advantage of them, whether you've known someone that has taken advantage of them, no matter what the scenario is concerning you personally, these laws do exist, and it's a contradiction for your community to sit up and have laws that for people to marry children and be playing around people concerning anything concerning children. You can't do it. You look retarded to me. Oh, you want to slap this guy around, but you got the whole country married children. I have to paint that picture. You try to smack somebody around and play with somebody. Meanwhile, you got 44 states for child marriage. You driving around trying to catch pedophiles. Guess what, buddy? You got 44 states for child marriage. Listen. No man can do it in their right conscience. You got to be crazy. And I'm not talking about in a psycho way. I'm talking about in a stupidity way. You got to be stupidly crazy. That's pretty bad when you so stupid it's crazy. When it's so stupid it's crazy. I didn't say mental sickness. You're so stupid it's crazy. You got 44 states with child marriage. How you around here trying to... Listen, we all didn't know. Because if we knew, we would know we wouldn't have no right. You ain't got no right, buddy. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what your morals are. In the country that you live in, you can't be walking around here doing that. For example, I could say, let's say for example, say I was born here in New York, and I had a baby girl. She's 17, right? She started having sex with this guy that's 59, going on 60, and I approached the dude with my gun, right? And I called the police. I said, yeah, you stay right here. I'm getting you locked up today, boy. And I do mean boy. You 59 years old, and you sitting around here having sex with a 17-year-old girl, what's wrong with you? You should have a big mama by now, sitting around here fixing you biscuits, cornbread, and chicken. But instead, you playing around with my 17-year-old girl who eat nothing but fast food. She just got done eating Wendy's. And you want that? Something wrong with you. I'm calling the police. You call the police. Yeah. I found a man that sexually assaulted my child, and I have him right here. I need somebody to come now. He's messing with my 17-year-old girl. He's 59, going on 60. I got him right here. He ain't going nowhere. I got the gun on him. Well, sir, don't shoot him. I ain't gonna shoot him. I got the gun on him, though. Police come say, hey, well, sir, in the state of New York, if she wanted, this is how it's getting broke down to you. I got to give you a scenario. In the state of New York, if that girl willingly had sex with that man, there's nothing we can do. What? Well, here in New York, the age of consent is 17. She can have sex with an 80-year-old man, sir. She can have sex with a 100-year-old man, and he can ejaculate in her mouth, and he can have anal sex and suck her toes, and he can be 80 years old, and she's 17, and we can't do nothing. What? In fact, this man is lying to you. He's lying to you. We just carded him and checked his ID, his driver's license. He's actually 80 years old. This man is 80 years old having sex with my 17-year-old girl. Yeah, well, yeah. Ain't nothing we can do about it. Y'all better arrest him right now. Y'all better arrest him right now. And ain't nothing you can do. An 80-year-old man taking Viagra, having sex with your 17-year-old girl. Now, see, y'all got a problem with that, don't you? But I'm showing you all the possibilities. She could be 17 years old, and an 80-year-old man can right here in New York with plenty of money. Probably is happening somewhere. All these guys that got these established men that got money here in New York, you don't think they messing with some little 17-year-old girls? By law, you could do nothing. That dad would have to go home. If he shoot him, boom. Sir, we got to take you to jail. You're going to jail now. Put your hands up. Drop the gun. You're going to jail now. You shot that man, and we told you by law the age of consent is 17, and I don't care if he is 80 years old. We think it's despicable. We think it's nasty. But by law, She has the right, even though she has a child's vagina. She isn't an adult. She has the vagina of a child, right? It's not an adult. She can act mature all she want. We know that they try to pick on those who try to pick those who are mature. She still has a child vagina. We know this. But you shouldn't have shot him, because now we got to arrest you, because it's the law that any adult can be with a 17-year-old child with a child's vagina. Because at the end of the day, a 17-year-old girl does not have the brain of an adult. They have the vagina of a child. And the rubber's meeting the road. When you playing with God's people and playing games, now it comes to the point where now it's a crossroads for everybody. You either feel that it's right to be with children or you don't. It doesn't matter if they're old children. I didn't ask you that. Young children, if they have child vagina, is it right for adults to penetrate it? We don't care what age. I don't care if the age is, they could be having sex. The law is they can have sex with somebody that's 17 and they 8 hours before they turn 18. I don't care if that's the law. Well, if it's 8 hours before 18, you can have sex with them. I don't care if it's that. It's still child vagina. Technically speaking. So the rubber's now meeting the road with all these people playing retarded games. Yeah, it was fun till the real situation came out. Now this is the real situation. With Kamala Harris is second in command. Yeah, we got to pull that card too. You a former prosecutor. How you sitting up in second in command, not saying nothing about 44 states with child marriage, the age of consent under 18 in 40 states, and not seeing the contradiction all across the country? You don't have a law system when it contradicts itself. You don't have a law system when it contradicts itself. There's one law system in the country. If it contradicts itself, you don't have it. You cannot do it in your right conscience. You can do it, but not in your right conscience. How you gonna lock somebody up? There's somebody locked up in California right now. But there's somebody here in New York having sex with the same age. That part. Listen, man, it just took somebody like me to show you, man.